longer tell you what happened to the bodies of those like Kathryn Parr. They just look at you like, well, I will defend historical people till the cows come home about being much like us, more similar to us than different treatment, especially in the 1700s of dead bodies, especially famous ones, was fucked up beyond belief. Kathryn Parr had died in September 1548 on the 5th of that month. For 2 centuries, like most people, she was able to rest in peace. She was buried in the grounds of St Mary's in grounds of Sudley, and this was near to where she died. She was okay there and left alone until about 1782. Summer 1782, a local resident, John Lucas, found her lost tomb in Sudley. Her coffin was buried just 2 feet below the chapel floor. So, as you do, he pried open the coffin and was amazed to see that Kathryn looked like this. She was wrapped in, I think it's lead preserver, and he could see that her face was almost perfectly preserved. So was one of her hands, as you can see there, and on the lead wrapping, which was common in the Tudor period, there was like a thing describing the Queen and identifying who she was again. Instead of keeping things silent or letting her rest, he snipped parts of her hair and even plucked bits of fabric and then pulled a tooth out for good measure. A group of women asked to see her as well. They were allowed to. Amazing preservation. Quickly, as this kept happening, began to disappear. She began to rot. This time she was left out long enough that someone decided to take a etching, a kind of copy of what had been written about the Queen on the lead kind of cover. It was just describing how here lieth the Queen Catherine, mentions how King Edward was ruling at that point, obviously. Here's the point where I want to go back in time and beat the shit out of some fucking cunts. In 1792, so a decade later, and at this point the Queen's getting quite a state. Her rapidly becoming a skeleton was removed and danced with. But men who did this, who were mostly drunk, fucking smashed her teeth off and did every kind of fucked up thing you could do to a body. Another guy cut her head off, and some of them pulled her arms off. Then, as a final fuck you, they buried her upside down. The Victorians get shit for being fucking miserable cunts. They kind of saw that people, when you're dead, you should be given some dignity in your death, and you shouldn't treat dead bodies like they're toys to play with. Finally, in the Victorian age, Catherine was reburied in a mock medieval tomb here. Finally, the long suffering Queen, who'd had this unfortunate afterlife, could rest in peace. I hate that I know the facts behind why we have these teeth. Now you know those facts too. Enjoy.